Welcome to Cashflow Savannah. Today we have a very good friend of the Savannah real estate community. Jonathan Oppenheim is here. Jonathan has been a big part of our community. And what I like the most about John is that he's very unique. And may I say, getting around people that are very different than you can be such a huge asset as you go through life. And John has always had a different view on things. He's always had a different plan, and he's very successful. He's doing well. I just really enjoyed hearing his backstory. I've talked to John hundreds of times at public events, and I always enjoy speaking with him. But this is my first time getting to find out about his background and really who he is as a person. And also, his theory on investing and how he's going to get there. We're all going to get these portfolios of real estate in different manners. And John definitely has his own way about things. Unfortunately, Chandler was not able to join us today. He was going to come, but he had an emergency at one of our short-term rentals and he had to handle it. So we were thinking he would make it partway through the interview, but Chandler was not available. We do love Chandler. We will absolutely have him on the next episode. And from here on, please enjoy my conversation with Jonathan Oppenheim. Welcome to Cashflow Savannah, Jonathan Oppenheim. Welcome, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
It's good to have you. And here I said it again. I said Jonathan, but you typically go by John. Is that right?
I typically go by John.
Okay.
Yes.
When
A
I
lot of
first
people know
met
me by John or John.
John or Jonathan. Okay. I first met you. I put you in my phone as Jonathan Oppenheim. And so I always say it that way. And then anyway, I probably sound like your mother or your uncle that hasn't seen you in 10 years when I say your entire name. But
I'm in trouble.
yeah, so what did I do? John, you're a big part of our local real estate community, which is exactly why this podcast exists. We have a lot of people that listen that want to learn about investing in Savannah, and we have a lot of people that listen, they're already investing in Savannah and they live here. So I would love to hear your story. Before talking real estate, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where do you come from? What brought you to Savannah and what keeps you here?
Thank you, Julie, for having me. Chandler, thank you. My name is Jonathan Oppenheim. I've been in Savannah for about 10 years. I came here via SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, through their photography program. I've been shooting professionally now for about 7 years. I specialize in automotive photography. I also shot about 3 dozen weddings, headshots, and portraits, and real estate, really anything you can think of. And yeah, originally from Massachusetts,
Oh, great.
and lived in the South, between South Carolina and Georgia, for a number of years, 30 plus years of my life, with a year living in India
Wow.
and Lake Tahoe, California. Yeah, been in real estate for not as long as photography, but I've always had an interest in it. Really started getting active about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. What got you into photography and specifically cars? That's so interesting. That's not a specialty that you hear every day. How did you get into that?
Well, photography itself, I was a pretty slow reader as a kid, and so I preferred magazines and books that had pictures. I read a lot of Life and Nat Geo, those sorts of like popular science, like out in the world stories told by photograph. So just being a slow reader and a little dyslexic, that got me into photography. That's kind of the crux of it. It wasn't until I was at school, before Savannah College of Art and Design, I was at College of Coastal Georgia in Brunswick
Right.
for pre-engineering to go into an engineering track. So there's a lot of math and science. I was a non-traditional student, kind of jumped in about 25 or 26 years old into that, and couldn't really keep up. And I had a friend in Brunswick who had kind of an outdated Canon DSLR camera, and I had mentioned to her that, hey, I have been wanting to take photographs of this town for a couple of years now that I've been here. And she's like, take the thing, take it, shoot it. I don't ever use it. And that summer, I read through the manual front and back. I shot like 8,000 photographs during the summertime, trying all the settings out, and just absolutely fell in love with it. Was like, this is what needs to happen. And so the next year, I stopped the program at College of Coastal Georgia and applied at SCAD, and they
Wow.
accepted me. And yeah,
A person
and
giving you an old camera and it just changed your
mhm,
life.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that is such a cool story. What a great friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry?
Do you still have that camera?
No, I don't think I do.
Wow.
You know what I did? I re-gifted it. I gave it to somebody who was also starting in photography a
Awesome.
number before I left Brunswick. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
And the automotive side of things. Yep.
yes,
Go
yes.
ahead. Oh, the automotive signs, I had Matchbox cars as early as I can remember. Most people did. I was a little unconventional with those. Instead of like running them around the track, I was more of a detective. So I like to, as weird as it sounds, I used to smash the cars up with a hammer and then create accidents, like see, and then decide like, how did this accident take place with this car this way and the damage on this side and this car coming in? How did that work? And then deconstructing the accident.
I
And so it kind
love
of set me on a path of like, how do things work, but also being in cars. And then when I got my license, I was off to the races. I was driving around around, started hanging out with people that were racing or drift racing, and started building cars and driving a lot, driving the street, driving the track, and it just evolved. And when I got a camera, it was kind of, it made sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's go take photos of the motorcycle, let's go take photos of the car. And it just escalated. The minute I got the camera, it just escalated. And then it just became like, I can do this. And they're much easier to work with than people
Yeah,
because
I can
people
see
get
that.
fussy, they get tired, exhausted. They're always moving. Cars, you set them, figure out the lighting, kind of move around. Yeah, just it brings you places too that you just never thought you'd be.
If I could give you any vehicle in any setting and let you photograph it, what would be your dream photo
Mm.
shoot? What would you pick? Any budget, John? Would you
It's a
crash a
hard
car?
question. And then I would photograph it afterwards as a detective. No, I love silver cars, you
Oh,
know,
interesting.
as
Okay.
yep, as a photographer or a videographer, you know that like you have white and black and middle gray, and all your settings are set on middle gray. And so a silver car, it diffuses light in such a way that in overcast skies, in direct light and low light, it just looks beautiful. The
Huh.
way the light falls off a curve, just absolutely gorgeous. So it would have to be probably a silver car. And I'm just going to go for one that I absolutely love is the Aston Martin DB5, the James
Okay.
Bond. A little bit of chrome in there, but mostly silver aluminum. I would go with that. Setting wise, it could be anywhere. You could put me in the middle of a trash reclamation facility or on the track. It doesn't matter. I would make it work.
I would say we put it in a junkyard and you make that
Yeah, it's
top.
the juxtaposition. Yeah,
Right. Oh, I
absolutely.
love that.
Absolutely.
How
Yeah.
interesting. You love to shoot silver cars. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to for my husband's car. He has a silver car. He might really like that, actually. That might be a great. How interesting. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. I love this. That's so cool. Okay, and I'm sorry for our listener. We're going to get to real estate, but I'm very curious. Savannah College of Art and Design, if you've never heard of it, it is like the Harvard of art and design school. It is the name is everything. They shockingly, they have I say that with love, they have a 99% job placement rate, which is unheard of in the arts. You graduate from SCAD, you're pretty much guaranteed a job, and that's just unbelievable. When I heard that statistic, I was like, wow. I knew SCAD was awesome, but that's just like a whole nother level. Talk about photography at SCAD. What does that entail? I've honestly never had the opportunity to talk to anyone about it. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, SCAD is incredible in their outreach and their community. You can literally, if you go to a new city, you could probably find somebody who went to SCAD and they would be almost not even obligated, but just honored to like get you in a position. This is one of my cats.
Uh,
Get him off the thing. Yeah, SCAD, wonderful, wonderful school. What a presence here in Savannah.
yeah.
The photography department is pretty amazing. There's an incredibly wide variety of types and styles of photography, anywhere from digital to iPhone photography to large format film, 35 millimeter. You can work in a dark room, print your own photos. You have studio settings where you can go in and control every aspect of a shoot. And then you collaborate with models and fashion designers and
Oh, that makes sense.
experienced people in SCAD, and you all come together and you can create these incredible photo shoots and this incredible content. And then what's even more incredible is actually the foundations program, which is not really talked about too much. Obviously you have your specialties, photography or film or acting or fashion, but their foundations program is really, really strong. And what that teaches you is, I mean, as it says, foundations, you learn about light and dark and shading and
Huh.
contour and texture and the three-dimensional experience of something. If you place a pineapple in the middle of a room on a pedestal, that's telling the audience that like, okay, this item is raised up, which means it's of mass importance, but the texture is very interesting and it's not roped off. So I can come up and the texture looks interesting. So maybe I can touch it. So just being aware of the entire surrounding and how people interact with it was one of my favorite classes with 3D design. As a school, it's just, it's pretty incredible to be there. And then you have Savannah, which is the home base for SCAD.
Yeah.
There's also a campus in Atlanta. There's one in Lacoste, France. There was one in Hong Kong that recently shut down after the pandemic. But Savannah as a home base is incredible because if you know Savannah, you have beautiful architecture and squares.
Yeah.
And you have not only Savannah College of Art and Design, but you also have three other colleges. So you have a lot of energy and excitement and youth and creativity. And so you can just play off of that very easily.
Savannah is itself an incredible backdrop. Just everywhere you turn, there's an amazing photo opportunity, just all the moss. And I'm with you. I love depth and texture, and that's amazing. How cool. That's awesome. Thank you so much for talking about SCAD. And you teach there now. Is that's your primary profession? No? Did I get that wrong?
No, 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 not at all. No, that's so funny because for a number of years after I graduated, people kept thinking I was a professor at SCAD
Oh,
probably because I would wear maybe a flannel jacket or something, and I just had that professionally look to me. But no, I've never taught there. I work with SCAD as an approved photographer. If they have events, I go in and shoot with them. If they have days where they're building sets, I may come in and grip with them. Even touching on the automotive thing, that's actually how I got back working with SCAD. Is they needed cars for their photo shoots, and so they called me because I know a lot of people in the community and I'm into photography. So they would call me now for a couple of years whenever they needed an automobile, Mustang convertible, old Spider, Bentley or Genesis or something like that. They'll call me up and say, hey, this is the car we need. This is when we need it. Procure that vehicle for them.
yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
remember at one of the meetups you had said something about you were starting to work with SCAD, and I guess I interpreted
Mm-hmm.
it that you were teaching, but how interesting. You're the guy that is in the know. You're definitely a specialist, I have to say. I wouldn't know where to find those vehicles. Well,
Yeah.
so what got you into real estate? How did you get from engineering to photography to real estate? Talk about that journey just a little bit. What sparked your interest initially?
You know, I don't, I can't put a specific moment in time that really codified it for me, but I do remember in the housing crash 2008, a lot of foreclosures happening in my neighborhood. I remember saying to my parents, and gosh, I was late teens, early 20s at that point. If we can, we need to try to get some of these foreclosure houses because the market's going to come back. And I don't really know where that information came from, but ever since then, it's been kind of watching real estate in the background, kind of where most people think they need to, to purchase a home, you need 2 years of work experience and a good credit score and all these things. And then so a couple of years ago, I was 2 or 3 years into a career and I had the money to buy a house with some cash down and a good credit score and work history to validate it and kind of set myself on a path and said, I have a goal in the next 5 years. This is where I want to be. And just started working towards that.
Very cool. So when was your first purchase and where did you buy and
Mm-hmm.
what kind of asset
The
class?
first, yeah, so single family homes was where I was starting out. My goal was over 5 years, buy one house every year, live in it for 1 year, then turn it into a rental. Buy the next one, live in it for a year, turn it into a rental.
Good.
And so the first property was a single family house, a small 2 bedroom, 1 bath, close to Daffin Park, less than 1,000 square feet. What I thought was undervalued at the time and turned out to be correct, 3 years later. Bought that property and lived in it for a year. Did very minimal work. It was pretty much rent ready when I got into it and did what, 5% down, maybe 18,000 total in closing costs. And yeah, so single family homes was essentially what I was looking for
Great.
initially. And it was 2021, the end of 2021 was that first purchase.
Nice. And
Mhm.
once you moved out, were you able to cash flow on it with the rent, or how did you do with only five?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean,
Bought it well.
2021 interest rates were still pretty
That's
low, even at the end of the year. And since it was a primary residence first, I was able to get in there at low money down and a better rate. And so yes, immediately I was able to cash flow it. Although my first tenant was a terrible one. Shout out to you know who you are. Um, and it was a 6 month lease, and I really didn't know any better, and there was no background checks or any of that sort of thing. It was basically, this person who I trust, so I'll trust you. So I did cash flow, but I almost had to evict them 3 times for non-payment. And after that 6 months, it was kind of had to rethink the entire situation. Do I just set it up the way it is and continue to rent it at that price, or do I spend the next month and put some work into it and get it to market rent? And so that's what I did. I gave them the option to renew, but I gave them kind of a ridiculous price point that they wouldn't want to take. Voluntarily were like, we're not going to renew. And then went in there and repainted the entire interior and rebuilt the back deck and the staircase on the side. And you have to put it on to apartments.com, which has been really nice. They do background checks and, put all the rent management through there, and they give me taxes and all this stuff. So it was a massive step up and helped me find a long-term tenant, which ended up being, at the rate I was looking for. It was cash flowing really well after taxes and repairs and
nice.
everything.
Very good. Awesome. So how did you buy the second property and move into a second one that you own from there? And how did you save up the second down payment? Because sometimes that's the hardest thing for people just
Mhm.
getting into real estate is coming up with that down payment.
Right. So the first one I think was 5% down, and it was right under 140,000 buy-in, which I know is pretty ridiculous now to think of. So that was, like I said, maybe 18,000 total in. And then it was a year that I was saving. I had a pretty good job at that point. It was a corporate job. I think I'd just gotten a promotion on it, so I was just I was putting like maxing out my 401k and putting, $1,000 a month into savings.
Right.
But then the next year, after learning some things through the real estate community, through Clash Flow Savannah and some of the other meetups, he was just learning so much, taking so much in, and realizing, okay, well, I don't need to put 5% down the second time because primary residence, I can actually 3.5% down.
Yeah.
And the market may or may not be softening. And the property that I was looking at, just it was marketed so poorly. The pictures online were terrible. If you came to look at it, all the windows were closed and they had pets and probably ferrets and cats, and it smelled terrible. And so the price kept dropping and dropping. And the neighborhood it's not quite there, although it's around the corner. And so I
Awesome.
went on to this one. I went a little bit smarter on it, but a little bit less down. I bought it at 160, and then I had a number of seller concessions. And so my actually buying costs, even though it was my second property, my buying cost was less than what my first one was. It was maybe
Wow.
14 or 15,000 to get in. So that 1 year between the 1 year and 3 months was just me just saving like crazy, trying to
Well,
get to there.
and even though you paid a little bit more, I want to point this out and give you a shout out. You were so much more educated on that second home. And I
Hmm.
screwed up on my first purchase too. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, that's how you learn is you just do it and you figure it out.
Hmm.
But now you look like a genius on the first house. But at first you'd arguably say, well, I could have done this and that better, but it's probably worth 225, 240, 280 now. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening, Jonathan, talking about near Daffin Park. That's where the Savannah Bananas play. That is a
Hmm.
fantastic location in Savannah. You obviously, picked a great location. So that's awesome. And I want to say, you've always shown up to, I would say, almost every meetup. And one thing I always loved about you, which is hard for some people, is you were always putting your hand in the air and saying what you needed, but you were also very open about the fact that you weren't perfect. I remember you talking about pouring concrete and you had done it poorly, but you did it. And it was just fun. You always had a good time with it, which I love. It's
Hmm.
just like in this business, you're either going to laugh or cry. So try to laugh, like have a good time with it. It's a rental property. It's not the Taj Mahal. You not having
Hmm.
perfectly level cement is not going to ruin your rent comps. It's just not. So
Absolutely.
I love that you've always been so open to being, out there with your failures as well as your wins, and that's really great. So are you on your second purchase now, or have you moved past that second purchase? I don't know how many you have in your.
Yeah. I wish I had more at this point, but I'm definitely going to just go ahead and say I love the journey, even though it has been a little bit challenging in the last year or so. This is the one I'm in right now is my second property. It's
Okay.
still my primary residence. In between the time of getting the second and third property, my entire department at work got laid off.
Wow.
And so kind of really had to look myself in the mirror and say, do I want to be doing this corporate setting for the next couple of years and continue to build this slow route, or do I just want to take a chance, put it all on the line and go for it and really dive into real estate? And so that's what I chose.
Good for you.
So now I am in acquisitions. I am wholesaling for the most part. I think this past year I have probably made 20,000 phone calls, talked to 2,000 people. Just continually working at it. I did one wholesale deal back in June with the help of Corey Griffin,
Yeah.
who was
Or-
coaching me for the first 3 months. Yep, absolutely. He's the whole reason I was at those meetups, which is why I was like so adamant about having him as a coach, because he was kind of just getting into the coaching space, and he was the reason I was at those meetups. Running into him, meeting him, and him inviting me out was like the whole reason. So I worked with him for 3 months, and he gave me the kind of like the bedrock, the foundation to get started in that. And we closed the deal in June. And then I've just been grinding since then and learning a lot as I go. I've got one property right now in Pembroke that's under contract that we're going to go walk on Saturday with a couple buyers. But really, my goal is to build a rental portfolio. And so every deal that I look at, even though ultimately I know at this moment, like wholesaling is probably going to be the deal because I need to be able to build capital, coming to these meetups and continuing that education and talking with sellers, realizing that not everybody needs the same thing. Everyone needs something different. You're able to be more creative with the way that you structure a deal. And so what I've been really looking into is finding deals now that have essentially owner that I can owner finance. I think that's the way I'm going to get my next property. Someone that doesn't, can take payments over time.
I have
Yeah.
four under finance deals in my portfolio, and they've been wonderful. They're huge relationship plays. People,
Hmm.
it sounds really great, but you're the type of guy, Jonathan, that can go in and gain that trust. You have to gain their trust for them to be willing to do that for you. They're not just going to do that to a guy that calls them on the phone that they've never met before. That's at least I
Hmm.
haven't seen that. They would have to be extraordinarily desperate, and I can see you doing very well at that. Very cool. I
Thank
love
you.
seller finance, and I someday I feel like I want to give back and I want to do it too. So someone hits me at the right time, maybe I'll get to do that. But that's so cool. I love seller
Absolutely.
financing. Very good. What is there any area of town that you're kind of focused on, or any asset class, or how has it been going with wholesaling? Because wholesaling is tough. There's a lot of competition. So what ways are you using
Mhm.
to kind of differentiate yourself?
Yeah, there is a lot of competition, and there's a lot of competition, obviously, from investors going out and doing their own marketing, which is perfectly fine. That's great, and that's exactly where I want to be as an investor. The reason I got into wholesaling was because I was always terrible at sales, and I know that there needs to be acquisitions, there needs to be sales in the organization that I want to build. And so I want to figure out how to do it first so that when I hire people on, it can grow. But there's a lot of competition, and a lot of people are getting phone calls randomly from everybody from every part of the world trying to buy their house for pennies on the dollar. So there's a lot of competition. What I've been finding the most success in, there's been cold calling, a lot of cold calling happening, but I've recently been practicing with a pay per lead, which will essentially be somebody is marketing online, doing SEO searches. The seller will reach out. They'll look for it themselves.
Smart.
They say, "Hey, I want to sell my house. I need to find a place to sell my house," and they're looking for that. And that lead will come in, and I'll purchase that lead, knowing that this person is way more motivated than me randomly calling somebody in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening time,
Right.
and saying, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you want to, I'm working for some investors in the area. Are you looking to sell your house?" These people they're looking for a solution. They have questions, maybe just to kind of dip their toe into it. But people that are inquisitive or looking for answers are much more motivated to have intelligent, cut the bullshit conversations.
That's smart.
So I've been finding a lot of success in those. They cost a little bit more money, but they save a lot of time, and the quality of the lead is so much better. So the property I have under contract now in Pembroke came as a pay per lead,
Nice. That's
a
awesome.
Google search SEO. So that's kind of the route I'm exploring right now, and it'll definitely evolve over time. I know
Right.
that, but this
Yep.
is working the best for me now.
I mean, for me, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't do things today the way I did them 5 years ago. Like, you get
Mhm.
better, you grow, you get quicker. But I mean, you've never had an issue taking your licks and putting your time in, which is what I love. And if this is helpful at all, I have no idea, but I have a very good friend up in Pennsylvania, and I mean, she joined Sub 2 back before people knew what Sub 2 was with Pace Morby. So she's been at it a long time. And so at the time, she put up
Mhm.
a website, optimized her SEO, and, she wholesaled for quite a while and then kind of put it on the back burner. But now her website is so old and the SEO keeps getting better for whatever reason. They kind of tend to value these older sites that have the right whatever. She's been getting free leads.
Mm.
Just incredible, how that these things can kind of build on itself. And I've seen her do the same iteration that you're kind of going through. So that's really exciting. Very cool.
Yeah, I would love to get to that point where I have my own website that is bringing leads in, but
Yes.
I have a website social media has actually been another really good avenue, posting daily. I've been trying, the last 2 months I've been posting daily on Instagram, which is, set out to Facebook as well, but just basically like a very soft, like, "Hey, if you want to sell a house that isn't market ready, give me a call. I'm looking to buy." I've gotten a couple leads that way, and nothing has come to fruition yet. But again, they're intelligent conversations and they're referrals. You may have 1,000 people in your sphere of influence that your content's going to see, and one of those people knows another 100 people. So that's
Yeah.
like 10,000 people immediately that you have access to, and it's 5 minutes a day,
Yeah.
basically being like, "Hey, what's up? I need a thing. Can somebody help me?" And so that's another one, is the social media is really, I intend to drive that up a little bit.
And I have a thought for you if you're open to it, John. This is my encouragement for you. And everyone has something that is their gift and that makes them stand out. And if you were black, I would say you're black, you're going to appeal to black people. And if you're Asian, you're going to appeal to Asian, right? So that's a win for you because you have a direct audience, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
you love cars. And I really
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to use that to your advantage and put it out there. Hey, I'm the guy that loves cars. I'm the guy that shoots cars. And if you love cars and if you happen to have real estate, like if you can get that kind of a connection with dudes that also love cars, I can see that being an instant trust factor because you are such a great
Mm-hmm.
person. You've already got everything to back it up. But if you can kind of find a way to get their attention, because that does build trust, like I said, back to someone's race, that's instant trust for that other person. Typically, I'm being very general, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times they'll feel a little bit more trust there where they go, okay, we're from the same heritage. I instantly feel a bit of a trust, and then they say something intelligent, now they go up another level, so it can just kind of give you that
Mm-hmm.
little edge. So I
Right.
don't know, just a thought for you. I haven't seen your marketing. I love marketing, but I would use that to your advantage because you really are in a very tight niche what you're doing, and it's so interesting. I'm not even into cars and
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated. I can't imagine, do guys just go crazy over you when they realize your photography skills and what you've shot? Do you have men just like show me everything? Like, I'm sure you do,
I mean, that's what I can hope for every day, right?
right? They probably go like,
Um,
you shot a Maserati, that's so cool. Like
Yeah,
there's
it
a
is super fun. There's a lot of there's a lot of conversation there.
right.
You show a portfolio and you say, oh, this is the shoot, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I used to have a 1986 Bronco K5, like just like that in that color, or like,
Right.
holy smokes, did you get to drive that McLaren? They're definitely good conversation starters.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good community, and of course here in Savannah, most people don't think about Savannah as being a really big car scene, but the whole East Coast, you have Hilton Head, which has a concours d'elegance, and you have Amelia Island in Florida that has a concours d'elegance, and everywhere in between, there's car enthusiasts and collectors,
Huh.
living the Southern charm life and collecting cars. Haggerty just acquired a warehouse off of not Chatham Parkway. Oh my gosh, what's the name of the road?
Dean Forest?
Dean Forest, yes, off Dean Forest, called Garage and Social. And so they have a very large collection of cars there that
Huh.
their auction site runs through, and it's storage. So they have events there. So, and then knowing those guys that put that together, it's a direct connection. And we've got
Yeah.
Roebling Road, which is out there's a racetrack. So there's a really big car culture here in Savannah.
But they also have real estate, John. So
They also have real estate.
get around the cars,
Yes.
start
And
taking pictures and showing your work and tell them.
absolutely. And some of those car collectors, they obviously are into appreciating assets over time. So they understand the value of buying something and holding it as an asset and using money to create wealth. And so as a lending partner, these
Yeah.
people are also, some of them are in good positions to lend on constructions or renovations. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely something I've been thinking about.
Okay, so forgive me. I don't know the answer to this question, and I'm assuming the viewer doesn't either. But what is a concours d'elegance? I do speak French, so I know what that
Yeah.
means too, but I've never heard of that.
The literal translation. So the concours d'elegance, to me, I'll say to me, because I don't know the official terminology here. It's essentially a culmination of automotive enthusiasts and automotive history all coming together in one celebration.
So
You
it's
take a
yes,
venue, it's a festival.
interesting.
They're mostly held on golf courses,
Oh,
at resorts. So you'll have fields and fields of cars, everyone, the first Mercedes back, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, all the way to, brand new Range Rovers and Porsches. They've got everything you can possibly think of, multiple classes. They celebrate every class. They even have safari classes for some of the Porsche cars now. You can go out there for 2 days, 2 or 3 days, and just as a spectator and just look upon fields and fields of like classic, unique,
wow.
almost impossible vehicles to see. And the automotive history is you're barely at the surface of it. It's like 150 years old. The first automobile
Yeah.
was built in the late 1800s. Like it's not very. Photography was developed in the 1820s. The first photograph was like 1828 or something of that nature, right? These are very very young things. So you can see the evolution of automotive history is expansive in that short amount of time. And then they have auctions. Like people go there and there's auctions that run all day long through different venues. Sotheby's, Broad Arrow Group, Barrett Jackson. All of these they go through there, and so you can go into the auctions and watch these like almost priceless works of art, old Ferraris, Aston Martins, and Corvettes, and anything, and just watch them be sold from like one collector to another collector.
That golf
So
course
it's just a really great opportunity.
is that your version of heaven? Like that, I can just see guys just like hanging for that. That sounds
I'm
amazing.
sure for some people it's not. It is pretty impressive to see for the first time and to walk through. And there's a ton of stories there. Every vehicle has its own, like it started out, 1948 in the United States, in Detroit, like it started here, and this is the journey of this car, and it ended up in South Carolina for 3 years and got a full restoration, and then a buyer in California did this and they raced it for 10 years and then it got a full rebuild. Like you can just trace the lineage of these automobiles. It is pretty impressive. My version of heaven is probably just behind the wheel. Put it on a racetrack and let me just drive the absolute crap out of it.
And then take pictures.
And then take pictures of it. Yeah. Before or after, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Wow, that is so interesting. I have never heard of this, and I've lived here forever. I've never heard of the Concours d'Elegance. I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
That's really
November is Hilton Head. That's the closest one. It's like 45 minutes away, 2 or 3 days long.
wow. I'm learning so much. Very cool. Well, so back to real estate, you're on your second deal, been wholesaling, which is awesome. That's really great. Call me if you need me to send out to my list. So what's the next thing for you? What are you saving up to buy? Do you have anything specific in mind? Like what's the plan for real estate?
Plan for real estate is continue with the paper leads. It seems to be working pretty well. Continue with the social media. Just develop conversation skills that are necessary to build trust and close deals. And kind of long term is to develop a portfolio that's 20 properties in the next 10 years. This is my other cat. This is Ma'am.
Oh.
She's a sweetheart.
Are you gonna plan to keep moving into them for now? Just because
No,
okay.
no. There may be if I find something that the deal works in a way, me going into it makes the most sense. I'll do that again. But at the moment, kind of nestled into this house. In the last 2 years, I have happily gotten a girlfriend and she's moving in with me. So I want some, stability in my life now. And also what I've been building has been more geared towards now that I can have conversations with people and offer more options than just like buy cash straight out or even go a conventional route because I don't have a W-2 income now to rely on to get a conventional mortgage. I've got to have these creative ways. And so my goal is to just, if I acquire more properties, they're going to immediately be turned into some sort of rental portfolio.
That's awesome.
And then eventually, if I can find a house on Washington Avenue in Savannah, that'll be the go-to. I love that. I love that road.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out. My road is Gaston. I want to live on
Gaston.
Have you been
That's
to
a good
Gaston?
road. I have, yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
my second favorite street is Jones, and my first is Gaston.
Okay, yeah.
But I have to check
Jones is
out
beautiful. Washington is like it's single family homes. They've got yards. The road itself is just there's live oaks and it's lined with live oaks. It's a divided street. So you got,
Nice.
this way and this way and it's divided. Anytime if I'm doing a highlight video of any sort of car and I need something quintessentially Savannah, I go there at like 9:30 in the morning where the sun is peeking through the trees and it's speckled. And we're doing a drop, like I'm in the back of my production car filming the car driving down the street from a forward view part of car, and the sun is speckling through and it's backlit. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a quiet street. There's a very wide diversity of types of homes on that street. I love it. It's so nice.
How have you used photography to get the most out of your real estate? Because photography really matters in real estate.
That's a good question.
I assume you've shot your own photos for your rental.
I have. Yep. That was definitely a perk.
Yeah. Can you give us some tips or tricks? Like what do you think a lot of people miss when trying to photograph a house?
So I think the first thing that you should look at when you're trying to photograph a house is really it's when you photograph anything. It's like, what story are you trying to tell? And, you and I have talked about this a little bit outside of this discussion. I will photograph real estate at a certain level where you're maybe going to a renter or you're getting photos to an investor for maybe a wholesale deal, an investment deal, financing deal, where you need information about the property for renovation or inspection, but not necessarily to like set the mood of the area. So really, what's the story you're trying to tell? So what I like to do in the wholesaling, if I'm trying to market to investors or someone says, hey, can you go photograph this property to go talk to investors? I know that they need information. They don't need like the sun coming in from this angle and like, it highlights the couch in a certain way. And, you can imagine yourself drinking tea there in the morning. Like there's a little bit of that, but like it's mostly information. You can just see, okay, what's the electrical panel look like? So really just knowing who the end client is, who the end viewer is of these photographs, and knowing, okay, I like to go in and photograph wholesale properties like I photograph some of the rentals because I bring a lot of light to the space, and they're not just like in typical wholesale photos. You look and they're just like cell phone snaps and all like and they look like
Right.
junk and they're off angle. Like overall, they're just very distracting. Like it's kind of hard to say like what's the layout of the property and why is it super dark over here? I can't even see what's happening at that window. Like is there mold? Is there like nobody knows. So I go in there and I photograph them as I would for a rental where, I'm showing the space. Like I want the investor to say, okay, this is okay, that's in good shape over there. The walls look straight, all of that. So that's one of the things. And yeah, I would say that's probably the main thing at the moment that has helped me
Right.
in the photography issues.
Well, and I'm a property manager. And what most people don't realize is that as a property manager, you think tenants and toilets, blah, 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 blah. But really, my expertise is in managing money. That's number one. We're taking in money, we're paying out. Most of the money goes out, right, to the owner. But the second thing is we're specialists in marketing. That's our
Mm-hmm.
job. It's my job to not just get a house rented, but rent it at the highest dollar amount and as quickly as possible, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
where working with a property manager that's also an investor, they really understand that you are paying a mortgage, get it rented yesterday. You don't want it to sit 3 months. That costs you money. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always going, well, I don't make any money till this guy makes money. So let's get it done quick as well. We're kind of on the same team with that. But yes, I've seen in my career, especially with short-term rentals, but it matters for long-term rentals and sales as well. In that, like you already said in this interview, you and I both go hard for the worst photos possible because we know that's a kind of a diamond in the rough. Most likely there's a lot there
Mm-hmm.
and it's so poorly marketed, to be honest with you, that we can usually get a better deal because everyone else goes, because your average Joe, I mean, everyone, I shouldn't even say average Joe, everyone's very visual. And your average
Mm-hmm.
home buyer is going to be very turned off by poor photography, where your intelligent investor is going to be very turned on by bad photography because they know that there's an opportunity there. It's getting less hits, it's getting less inquiries, it's getting less,
Mm-hmm.
offers just for the photos. I mean, I've seen it myself. And, just to dial it down even further, and this is for long-term rentals and short-term rentals. We live and die by that first image in the ad because go to Zillow. You're not scrolling 80 photos on every 3 bedroom, 2 bath for rent in Savannah. It's one photo. You're looking at the location. That matters a lot, but it's one photo. And
Mm-hmm.
if that one photo is a piece of garbage or maybe the backside of a toilet or something, you're just going to go on to the next, even though it might even be a better.
Right.
And I've seen many, many, many times in my career where photography costs money. And just today, I was at breakfast with Chandler. We go to breakfast every Friday, and we're always trying to maximize revenue. And a big part of that is photos. And we moved a photo and changed the title on one. And by the time Chandler and I hit I-95, we had made a booking on that, a $1,500 booking. I
Amazing.
texted Chandler. I said, paid for breakfast. I do that every Friday, to see, just seeing that little zhuzhing. Anyway, I think it's so fantastic what an artist you are, John. And we all have so much to learn from you. Like, I just think we need to get this information out a lot more because it's easy to say, I made $1 million and look at my numbers. And, everyone has the flashy stuff on social media, but this is kind of meat and potatoes of real estate right now, what we're talking about. And you are just naturally very good at connecting with people and you have a great eye. I really think that your uniqueness and your love of cars is what's going to separate you and make you very, very successful in this real estate industry. It's really cool. What's been the best thing you've gotten out of this real estate community?
It is so hard to like put a like make a singular thing. First of all, the community is incredibly welcoming.
Yeah.
Um, you could have absolutely no experience in wandering off the street and be like, "Oh, I heard you guys were talking about houses," and everyone will want to talk with you and tell you a little bit about this, a little bit about that. So it's very friendly. I really just love the knowledge of it. I love that, one of these things that like the majority of people will look at it and say, I want to buy a house and I'll live in it forever. And this is going to be my home. My apologies for that. It's a motorcycle. Most people want to find a house and live in it forever. But there's so much more to get it to that point even, or, there's so many more ways to own real estate. I think it's just incredibly interesting to be able to work those deals out and also take a property that may be designed in one way with a specific floor plan, and in your head it's just reimagining it, walking into a space and being like, okay, all right, I see this, I see that wall, it's not load bearing, okay, there's a bathroom over there, we could probably put another one in, where would it best be suited, and just like imagining all the possibilities for this space there. I get really inspired by some of the designers in this town. Carla Barone,
Yeah.
She's absolutely amazing. I buy eggs from her on a weekly basis. She's got chickens, but I just love seeing her stuff. She's very experimental with, her paint and her design matches,
Yeah.
and even in her spaces, she takes risks, and sometimes they're incredibly successful, and sometimes they're not. But she's always taking risks, and she's just a pleasant person to be around. So seeing everyone's version of a reimagined property is really inspiring. Whether they're looking for quality or simplicity or an open feel or whatever it is, it's just really, there's so many visions happening at once. So that's pretty incredible as well.
Well, and coming to these meetups, we always have a different topic, and you're going to get around people that are doing something that you have no interest in. Let's say, self-storage. I'm into self-storage. You may not be into it. It's definitely not very visual, but getting around these people and hearing how they think, you'll learn something. You won't know what it
Mm,
is till you get there. And I'm telling you, I was a real estate investor for probably 15 years before I came to one meetup in Savannah. And I'm embarrassed to say that. And it was Corey's. And it was only the only
mm,
reason I had the guts to walk in was because I was invited by my friend and I knew he would be there. And that's what gave me the guts to show up. And then once I got in the room and
mm,
I was like, well, these guys aren't any smarter than me. And I have just as much real estate, if not more. And, I felt very comfortable, but I was terrified to walk in that first time. But yeah, just I really value the people that are completely different than me. Mike Bucciantini, one of my very good friends, and I don't want to flip properties. I'm actually, I hate selling them. I always say, don't kill the chickens. I want the eggs. I don't want the
mm,
chicken to die. I want the eggs. And so I'm not in my portfolio, I'm not a flipper, but being around a flipper has taught me so much, just things like that, just hearing how people look at the world. So I've seen your knowledge base really, really grow. And of course, having Corey in your corner is just huge. Corey Griffin is incredible. To be honest with you, John, I told you this, but I wouldn't even be running the meetup if it weren't for my coach. My coach told me,
mm.
you need to start a meetup. But we didn't have one. And I said, okay, well, what's the worst going to happen? I stop it, so it's been a lot of fun. It's just been an honor, to have that opportunity to get to know you, through this experience. And anyway, I wish the absolute best for you. Like if you could get one thing from the audience listening, what would that be?
What's one thing I can get from the audience or
What
give
are
to the
you looking
audience?
for? If someone had X, you'd
Oh,
be interested, or if someone needed Y, you'd be interested.
I mean, ultimately, I'm looking for properties to buy, at the end goal, right? Properties to buy at the moment on a seller finance deal. But also, if anybody's looking for any sort of photography need, even if it's just developing an idea for a brand you have, what would be all involved in like that kind of social media campaign or that campaign? I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I want to hear your ideas. I want to see what space you're in and see how that relates to other industries and how it can best make your business work.
I love that. Awesome. Well, John, where can people find out more about you?
So my most visited location, most up to date social media is my Instagram, and it's at Jonathan B. Oppenheim.
And that's within
And it's basically, there's no H. Yep. Jonathan, Jonathan, the letter B, last name Oppenheim, Oppenheim. And Instagram, it gets updated daily with real estate posts and photography posts and posts with my cats and posts of cool trees and cool lighting and shadows and sometimes workouts. And that's the most up to date. Other than that, there's links to my, photography website and real estate website. But that's the best way to get in touch with me if you don't have my personal content information is to Instagram.
Awesome. I want to say to our audience, John is way too humble and you have some amazing photography. And I definitely encourage everyone to check out his Instagram, check out his photography. You're just a great human, John. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. And thank you for coming on. We love to learn more about, our friends. And I've learned more about you and I've known you several years. So I just really thank you so much for your time. It's really been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Julie.
We will see you at the next meetup.
See you well.
I want to say a big thanks to John for being here today. I definitely pushed him out of his comfort zone, asking him to come on the podcast and speak publicly. He tends to be the guy in the back who enjoys talking to people one on one. And I know it's not easy to get on and speak on maybe a larger platform, but we just love you so much, Jonathan, and appreciate you. And if you're a part of our community here, I hope you will look Jonathan up at the next meetup. Tell him you heard about him, ask him a question. He is such a giver. He really knows a lot. And I truly hope that after this interview, you'll see what a huge part photos do play in real estate. Photos do demonstrate opportunity to a seasoned investor, and they also can bring you money if you're a seasoned investor because you know the value of photography. And Sid was here. We've been through many photographers over the years, and there are many great photographers, but because of the competition in the market, especially with short-term rentals, I've really seen the value in finding the best photographer, and they really are worth what they charge. You see someone with a high ticket amount, it's probably because they have a lot of skills. And John is definitely one of those people. So I really encourage you to reach out to him. He is on Instagram. He's on everywhere. If you ever need his contact information, I'm also happy to give it out. But thank you so much. It means a lot that you're listening to these podcasts. I hope that they're helpful to you. We are 100% here to educate you on investing in Savannah, which is, in my opinion, the best real estate market in the US. I am very biased in saying that, but I truly hope it's been a great educational opportunity. And we look forward to more. Next time, we will have another local investor. We hope to have more and more knowledge for you. So we really would appreciate your feedback. If you would comment, like, and subscribe, it does help us. These platforms where we host these episodes, they take note of that. So even if you'd be like, John rocks, give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate that. We're just a little podunk podcast and people trying to make a living and spread the word. So anything you could do, we'd appreciate it. Appreciate you, Chandler. I wish you could have been here today. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day and keep buying cash flowing real estate. No matter what means it takes, just find the way that works best for you. That's my best encouragement. Have a good one.